Welcome to the Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. I'm your host, Melissa with the Y. Join me for conversations about creating mindset and behavior changes that build a healthier, happier you. Let's drop the struggle and say hello to healthy living made easy, entertaining, and empowering. Hey, change makers, what is up? You will notice the vibe of this podcast to be a little bit different today. And this is not the episode I was intending to release, but I figured since it's Mental Health Awareness Month that we would just go ahead and take a deep dive into the vulnerability today. So I will give a small trigger warning for grief and loss because this is about anticipatory grief. This is about my experience with my sweet 13-year-old golden lab named Buddy. And Buddy is good. He's chilling right behind me now. But this morning, he gave me a fucking heart attack. And then we spent an unexpected 4 hours at the emergency vet. So buckle up because this is going to be a bumpy ride. But I wanted to share it while it's still raw and while it's still fresh, because these are the times when a lot of people think that individuals who have specialty training in areas like mental health and health promotion and all that jazz, that like we just have our shit together. And that's not always the case. And today is evidence of that for me. And that's why I wanted to share, because this is part of breaking the stigma. This is part of showing up authentically. And I always want to be real with my audience. And in this weird time of the immense gratitude that I have for Buddy being in my life, but also that impending heartbreak. I mean, if you read the intro, well, not the intro, what's it called? The preface? Yeah, I think it's the preface of my book. No, it's the dedication. Duh. In the dedication of Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck, I say that this book is dedicated also to Buddy, my biggest heartbreak waiting to happen. And man, if that ain't the fucking truth. So, a little backstory is that Buddy came into my life when I freshly turned 21, and I had been stalking him on Pet Finder for like 3 months before I went to go see him. And during that time that I was stalking him, because I was doing an internship out in San Diego, and then I was getting ready to come back to school, and I was interviewing for a pet trainer position at PetSmart, which meant that I could bring my dog to school, or not to school, to work with me, which I justified as being able to have a dog because I would have enough time since I could bring him to work. And the only times he would be alone is when I was at school. So went and saw Sweet Buddy at 10 months old. And where was I going with that? Oh, during the time I had been stalking him, his profile was taken down like 2 different times. And so I was like, oh no, he's gone. But then it popped back up like the same week or the week later. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So finally got to go see Buddy. Came home with him that day. Duh. So that's a little bit about how Buddy came into my life. And now, 12 years later, he is going through lots of senior doggy issues. He's had some weird neurological stuff happening. He's just losing some of his mobility. And today, I thought I was going to lose him because he woke up abruptly from his nap, and then he started panting, which isn't out of the norm for him. But then he was like drooling while he was panting. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So then I get up to look at him, and his eyes are like all sorts of jacked up, like just darting back and forth. They almost look like they're, kind of going in circles. And I was just like, whoa, Buddy, look at me. And he could not focus. His eyes just constantly kept moving. He was like leaning against the couch. It was just so bizarre. And so then I tried not to freak out. Inside, I was freaking out, but I was like trying to breathe, keep my shit together. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. It's a Sunday. I have to take him to the emergency vet. So I tried to see if he could get up. He couldn't get up. His poor little hind leggies were trying, but he just like his front legs, he was ready to go, but his little back leggies just couldn't get there. And so I try to lift him and he's just at such an awkward angle and like to get him to the car would just be a lot. So I frantically run over to my neighbors and God bless Scott and Faith. Shout out to y'all because I don't know what I would have done today. But I run over there, I knock on the door, and when Faith answers, I I like had to say it out loud, and that's when I totally broke down. I was like, "Buddy can't get up." Ooh, God. Even though he's good now, but still saying that was just fuck. I ugh. It was a lot. So I had to run around because she said Scott's in the back. So Scott came over, helped me. We get Buddy in the car, and the whole car ride to the emergency vet, I'm having to like stabilize myself and just constantly reassure myself. Even though I didn't know it was going to be okay, I was having to coach myself through like I have to get him there safely. Like I have to focus on driving. Like I just need to down regulate my stress response until we get him to the help that he needs. So when we arrive at the emergency vet, I leave him in the car and I go inside. And again, I have to say, my dog can't get up. And so God bless the staff at this clinic too, because it was a shit show for them. I mean, Buddy and I were there for like 4 hours. And the side note, I don't know if y'all know this, but I also have a business called Mind Body Thrive Lifestyle where I provide veterinary well-being services. So coaching and programs to help support veterinary professionals with their well-being. So it was very interesting for me to be in this situation today. And oh gosh, and I just hit my hand. Ow. um, I'm not even going to edit that out. It's fine. It's real. It's raw. Here we are. But where I was going with that when I started trying to use my hands and getting excited was like, I just have to say that this staff was absolutely amazing. And, from the time that I got there, and then they were like, okay, go ahead and pull around the back when I told them that Buddy was 90 pounds and, he couldn't walk. And they were going to bring a cart out to him. And as soon as I pull around the back, it's funny now. But when I got there, I opened the back and Buddy is fucking standing up on his own and like walking around the back of the car. So I was like, what? Okay. I mean, I was like grateful. Like this is good, but now what? So then the vet staff come out and I'm like laugh crying because I'm like, well, you wouldn't know it by looking at him. And yes, humor is one of my coping mechanisms. But they were so fabulous. And I just want to give the biggest shout out because I mean, that's just, it's such a, this was, what am I trying to say here? Okay, let me start. This was an emotionally taxing day for me, but even from what I was hearing while we were waiting, they go through that kind of emotional exhaustion on a daily basis. So please be kind to your vet staff, okay? They get treated real shitty by a lot of real shitty people out there. So don't be a shitty human. Be kind to your vet staff. I digress. When we get into the room, already my mind is like, I mean, on the drive there, I was mentally preparing to have to like have Matt come meet us there for us to say goodbye to Buddy. And I was just like, this is the fucking worst. So, good news, that's not how it ended up, but having anxiety, that's exactly where my mind was going. And it also wasn't helpful that Buddy is older than the age that I lost my childhood dog, Ranger. And the environment at the clinic felt very, very similar to when Mom and I had to put Ranger down. And so already I'm all sorts of, messed up in the head and just crying uncontrollably. Not like sobbing, but just like constant stream of tears like down my face into Buddy's fur. And so I'm sitting there on the floor with him already like he's okay, he's stable. And even though I had to wait 4 hours, I'm grateful that I was one of the cases that had to wait, because if we didn't have a wait, that's bad news. That means there's like life or death that we're facing. So the fact that I sat there for 4 hours with Buddy, no problem whatsoever. We had nowhere to be that day, nothing to do. That day. I'm talking about like it didn't just happen a few hours ago. Oh God, that's how long today has been. But all of that to say, like, this was a very emotionally exhausting experience. And I am still processing everything that happened. And even though I know all these different tools in my toolbox of coping and managing stress and grounding myself through distress and crises, like it is so much harder to put into practice when you are in these kinds of situations. And dare I say, that was traumatic for me. It really was, y'all. I tell you what, this dog has been my life. And I already, even just the thought of him not being in my life anymore, it's just the fucking worst. But on the flip side of that, I have so much gratitude to the staff that took such good care of him today, to him just still being here, and he still has an amazing quality of life. I'm grateful to my neighbors for helping me through that. I'm grateful to my parents who happened to call me on FaceTime while I was sitting on the floor with Buddy. And they just, they were there. I'm grateful to Matt for, keeping in touch with me as much as he could while he was at work. And it was just, I'm trying to do my best to frame this experience in a way that I felt that this was fitting for this podcast, because although it's called Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck, sometimes life fucking sucks. It just does. And part of the way that I'm making this experience suck less is by focusing on just loving on Buddy as much as I possibly can today, first of all, but also allowing myself some grace. And I have a bottle of wine that I'm probably going to tap into tonight. Just take some of the edge off. I am ordering myself a goddamn Papa John's pizza because I am letting myself eat my feelings today. I am giving myself that permission because it was a fucking hard day. And I'm just drained. I'm drained. I used all of my, how do I say this? Like my strength bank is drained today. I overdrafted massively because I just needed to do whatever I fucking could to make it through that whole experience. So this is just to say, like, there's going to be times where you have to give yourself grace to just make it through. And sometimes doing your best is going to look a lot different, a lot different. And today is one of those days where I started off my day with every intention to do a gentle yoga session, to work out. I may still go for a walk, but only after Matt gets home. So that way Buddy's not alone, because he did get some new meds. So just want to make sure he's supervised. But even when it doesn't feel like it sometimes, just telling yourself you're going to be okay. You're going to make it through this. You are strong. All of that, just telling it to yourself and extending those intentions, even if you don't fully believe it, it can help you get through some shit. It really can. And just to go along with the book, you can sit in the suck just don't get stuck, because right now this is fucking hard and it fucking sucks. and and that's okay. You have to allow yourself to feel whatever feelings you need to, because your feelings are valid. They may hurt. They may feel like the worst thing in the world, but the more that you try to fight them, the worse you're going to make it for yourself. So just try to see how you can open up and make room for those emotions to just kind of sit with you for a little bit, hang out, and then hopefully they'll move on their merry way and make room for some other, hopefully more enjoyable emotions, or at least emotions that are less sucky, right? I'm not sure how much value this episode will provide today, but I just wanted to get it out there. I had to share because it's very timely. Um, and part of breaking the stigma is sharing openly and honestly and vulnerably. So, I guess for the educate part of this podcast today, if you, not if, when you're going through a difficult time, let yourself feel the emotions that you need to feel. Naming the emotions can also be very helpful. Like today I felt, oh my gosh, so many freaking emotion. I said fuck a lot on this, so I tried to say freaking, but it's fucking emotions today. I felt everything from fear to sadness to anger to just a desperation to hopelessness. So naming your emotions can be helpful. Name it to tame it. That's a common phrase that's used. So that will be your educate part of this session today. Name the emotion to tame the emotion. For empower, I'd love to invite you to think back to a challenging time that you faced and you survived, because obviously you're here listening to this podcast today, and to think back on what strengths you used during that time. What are some of the strengths that you demonstrated to make it through that difficult time in your life? Whether that was perseverance, um, dedication, problem solving, vulnerability. Vulnerability is a strength, y'all. It really is. Asking for help, it's a huge strength. So that's empower for you. Today's engage is going to be a little bit different. I want to invite you that if you have pets, if you have a dog, cat, hamster, snake, I don't care, go give that animal some love, like massive amounts of love, because the number of families that came into the emergency clinic today that were having to say goodbye to their pets was just absolutely overwhelming. So to tag off of that, the next part of engage is be fucking kind to your vet staff. All right. I shouldn't have to say anything more than that, but just do it. Just be nice. Maybe send them a thank you card. If you're already nice, like do something extra nice, because there's a lot of challenges faced in vet med. So just do something kind for someone in vet med today. Leave a good review. Do something. And anytime that you need help, reach out for help. The new crisis lifeline number is 988 here in the United States. 988. You can call or text and be connected with a crisis counselor. Other than that, if you're struggling, like I'm about to go hit up my therapist to be like, yo, Courtney, when can you get me in next? Because holy shit, this was a lot. Like just ask your qualified healthcare provider for help. Make a session with a therapist or a counselor. And if I haven't gone on this tangent already, because I don't think I have, shop around for a therapist or counselor. Like find someone that you vibe with, that you feel comfortable and safe with, because otherwise it doesn't matter what kind of treatment modality they're going to take. You're not going to get the same benefits as if you find someone that you can connect with. So I think that was a lot of action steps for Engage today that I wasn't really expecting to take, but here we are. It's there. I was not expecting to have a really heavy episode this early on in the podcast, but here we are. So I still think it's relevant. I still think it's aligned with the Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck message. And I hope that there's something valuable that you can take away from today's podcast that can continue to support you in your own well-being journey. So thank you for tuning in and for holding the space for me to just kind of word vomit everything that happened today, and to also hopefully turn it into something that can help other people feel less alone. I want to invite you to just think about 3 things that you're grateful for right now. 3 very specific things that you're grateful for. And maybe share those. I'd love to see them. So maybe that's something that you could share on social media and tag me in it, because let's get some more positive vibes going today. All right, change makers, thanks so much for tuning in today. I know this episode was pretty heavy, but I hope that there's something that you found value in. And don't worry, next week's episode is going to be back on track with the fun, uplifting, positive vibes. But like I said, in the spirit of keeping it real with y'all, I figured that this was something that I needed to share with this audience. So thanks for being here. And until next week, change makers, take care, stay healthy, and be well.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck. I'm so grateful to have you here with us, joining our change maker movement. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you'd subscribe and rate and review this show wherever you're tuning in and listening. It helps more people discover the show and grows our community of change makers. Please connect with us on social media and follow us on Instagram at Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck for some behind the scenes looks, bonus content, and updates on new episodes. And don't forget to grab your copy of the book on Amazon. Thanks again, change makers, and I can't wait for you to tune in next week.